What would you think if I told you that the most magnetic man in the room isn't the loudest, richest, or best looking, but the one who needs nothing? Not her attention. Not her approval. Not her reaction. You see, the one shift that draws women like gravity is when a man stops performing and starts embodying. When his value isn't worn like a mask, but radiates from the marrow of his being. It is a subtle, almost primal signal, a kind of psychological scent, that tells the female unconscious. This man belongs to himself. Carl Jung understood this. He called it individuation, the sacred alchemy of becoming whole, of integrating the fragmented self, especially the shadow. And when a man integrates his shadow, he no longer fears rejection because he no longer rejects himself. He is no longer a boy looking for a mother in disguise. He is not there to be validated. He is there to witness, to choose, to stand. This is the man who doesn't chase. He draws. He does not inflate his worth. He reveals it by the way he carries silence like a sword and presence like armor. The magnetic pull isn't in what he says, it's in what he does not say. It's in the tension between stillness and intensity. He is rooted, stoic, undisturbed by chaos. And this, paradoxically, creates chaos in her. Because the feminine, wild, emotional, intuitive, responds not to logic, but to energy. She doesn't want to feel safe in the way society sells it. She wants to feel held, not controlled. She yearns for a man who cannot be swayed by her moods, who meets her wave with grounded depth, who sees through her tests not as obstacles, but invitations. She tests not to destroy, but to find out, is this man real? Or just another actor in a role? And when she senses that you are real, self-sourced, unshaken, whole, she feels it in her body before her mind can catch up. Her guard softens. Her eyes linger. Her essence opens. Not because you pursued her, but because you stopped abandoning yourself. That's the shift. From seeking to sovereign. From performing to presence. From hunger to wholeness. He becomes magnetic the moment he stops chasing love and starts embodying it. Not the sentimental kind fed by fairy tales, but the fierce, unwavering love a man has for his own becoming. The kind that does not beg to be seen, but commands it through sheer gravity of presence. To understand this is to understand the animus and anima, Jung's sacred polarity of masculine and feminine forces. When a man is fragmented, still at war with his shadow, he projects his anima outward. He seeks her in a woman. And in that projection, he creates a dangerous illusion, that she is the source of his soul, that she completes him. This is the root of addiction, the beginning of obsession. But when he withdraws that projection, when he does the inner work of reclaiming his feminine within, his intuition, his feeling nature, his creative chaos, he no longer needs a woman to mirror it back. He becomes whole. And from wholeness, love is not a transaction. It is a transmission. Now she feels it, this shift in him. The man who no longer proves himself, no longer overcompensates, no longer overgives or performs. His silence says more than his words. His stillness makes her restless in the most delicious way. Because she senses what is rare, a man who has integrated his ego, faced his death, and risen sovereign. He is no longer the beggar of affection but the architect of his own world. You, if you are listening now, know what it feels like to give too much, to be too available, to shrink your presence so she will stay. But what you must see is this: availability without value breeds contempt. Always being there signals not strength, but need. And women, especially awakened women, do not fall for need. They respond to direction, depth, integrity. The more a man honors his boundaries, the more magnetic he becomes. The more he protects his time, his mission, his inner fire, the more women feel the ache to be close to it. Not because he seduced them, but because he became the flame. This is not game. This is not manipulation. This is mythic, archetypal, rooted in the deepest wells of masculine-feminine polarity. She wants to feel pulled, not pursued. She wants to feel chosen, not needed. And so, the deeper law unfolds. A man does not attract her by reaching outward, but by drawing inward. The more fully he inhabits himself, the more effortlessly he pulls her in. Not with effort, but with essence. Not with charm, but with gravity. This is the paradox of masculine energy. The more you need her, the more she escapes you. But the more you need your own truth, your own silence, your sacred solitude, the more she longs to enter your world. Women do not seek men who orbit around them. They seek the sun itself, even if it burns them. You become magnetic when you stop moving toward her and start moving toward purpose. It is this alignment, your obsession with something larger than her, that makes her feel safe to surrender. In the absence of direction, she becomes her own compass. But when your energy is stable, unwavering, calmly potent, she lets go of control and falls. It is not about being cold. It is about being clear. A man who understands his emotional architecture knows that his value is not in how quickly he replies, or how many emojis he sends, or how often he appeases her moods. His value is in how deeply rooted he is when storms rise. How deeply he listens when no one else does. How fiercely he protects his peace, because from that peace, true presence is born. He who is too eager to please becomes invisible. He who disappears into her loses the shape of his own soul. You, if you've ever been ghosted, rejected, or friend-zoned, must understand, the issue was never your kindness. It was your self-abandonment. The part of you that gave your crown away before she earned the right to see you wear it. You let her take the throne of your attention, before you even knew your own kingdom. But something changes the moment you remember who you are. The moment you go quiet, not to punish, not to manipulate, but to return. To recalibrate. To ask, what do I actually want? Not just from her, but from life. What kind of woman aligns with the man I am becoming? That is when your silence begins to echo with power. That is when she feels it, not your absence, but your essence. Magnetism is not a trick. It is the resonance of a soul in harmony with itself. It is the subtle electricity of someone who doesn't chase, doesn't beg, doesn't explain, because they are anchored. And what is anchored cannot be pulled by the tides of validation. When a man begins to embody his own mythos, his values, his edge, his disciplines, he becomes mythic in the eyes of women. He no longer tries to convince. He simply is. And this is the rarest thing of all, a man who lives as if he does not need to be seen to be real. Carl Jung understood that what is unconscious in us will be projected outward. If a man has not met his own shadows, he will seek light in the eyes of a woman and call it love. But when she looks back and sees only hunger, only need, only emptiness, she retreats. She may not understand why, but the body knows. The soul knows. You see, feminine energy is not drawn to desperation. It is drawn to sovereignty. The shift that makes you magnetic is not loud. It is not boastful. It is silent, but seismic. It is the moment you stop waiting for a text, and instead go build your empire. It is when you no longer overthink what she meant, and instead, you ask what you mean. Your path begins when you replace validation with vision. Masculine magnetism emerges when you leave behind the boy who needed her to define him. You stop trying to be her fantasy, and instead become your reality. You no longer sacrifice your boundaries for scraps of affection. You no longer perform love, you live it, with or without her. It's in the way you walk into a room and do not scan for her approval. It's in the way you keep promises to yourself even when no one's watching. It's in the stillness behind your eyes when she tests your edge, and you don't flinch. You are not here to win her. You are here to win yourself. And when you do, when you finally claim that forgotten throne within, women feel it, not in their minds, but in their womb, in their breath, in their ancient feminine coding. They feel the presence of a man who doesn't chase, but who commands. Masculine presence is not performance. It is not a curated persona or a social mask polished for applause. It is the art of being without needing. The calm gravitational force of a man who has burned through illusion, grieved his own weakness, and emerged from the ashes, not hardened, but sovereign. This kind of man doesn't need to be loud. His silence says more. His absence echoes in the corridors of her psyche. And that, precisely, is why he is unforgettable. Women are drawn not to the man who floods them with words, but to the one who stands unshaken in his quiet certainty. Why? Because that kind of man reflects something she herself yearns to become: whole, undistracted, internally validated. He is not begging to be chosen, for he has already chosen himself. He is not clinging to outcome, because he lives in alignment. His discipline is sacred. His solitude is not loneliness, it is training ground. Jung would call this man one who has met his inner king. He has integrated the shadow of the pleaser and cast out the ghost of the approval seeker. He has reconciled with his animus, the unconscious masculine within, and stepped into the light of his full power. Not through domination, but through individuation. Women may test him, oh yes, they will. Not out of cruelty, but as a deep unconscious instinct. They seek the masculine they can trust. And trust is not found in words. It is found in the way he stays rooted when the storm comes. In how he honors his own time. In how he doesn't abandon himself just to avoid conflict. In how he doesn't chase love, but cultivates it as an extension of his essence. You, listening to this, must understand, attraction isn't built through chasing. It is built through creating polarity. And polarity requires space. It thrives in mystery. In restraint. In the knowing that your availability is not a commodity, it is a reward. If you're always there, always responding, always eager, you become predictable. And what is predictable is not provocative. What is always present becomes background noise. It blends into the scenery, and soon, it is forgotten. But when you pull back, not out of manipulation, but from embodiment, you stir something ancient in her. A recognition. A pull. A craving for the masculine that is not conquered, but chosen. When a man is too eager, too quick to bend, too willing to accommodate every desire, he loses something vital, his own essence. It's as if he becomes an extension of the world around him, a puppet whose strings are pulled by the whims of others, especially the woman he seeks. But in this dynamic, he loses his own center, his core of power. He becomes not the man he truly is, but the man he believes others want him to be. And in doing so, he becomes utterly predictable. When a man is predictable, he becomes safe, but not compelling. This safety, though, is an illusion. It is an absence of danger, but not in the sense of comfort. Rather, it is the danger of stagnation. The woman may tell herself she craves security, but deep in the recesses of her psyche, she longs for the sharp edge of challenge, the fire that ignites transformation. When a man remains static, never shifting, never testing boundaries, he does not provide this. Instead, he offers the comfort of a cage, wrapped in the guise of care and attention. Yet, the longer she stays in that cage, the more she begins to question, what did I really want from him in the first place? It is in the very act of restraint that a man can elevate his own power and invoke a woman's deepest, truest attraction. It is not in the loud declarations of his affections, nor in the frantic pacing of his need to prove his value. No, it is in the silence between words. It is in the pauses that leave her wondering, what does he want? It is in his boundaries that are not soft and pliable but strong, unyielding to the storms of outside influence. She will find herself craving what is not so easily attained because it is that mystery, that elusive quality of the man who is not available to everyone, that makes her feel alive. But this does not happen by chance. This shift in energy requires deep inner work. To be magnetic is not to act the part of an aloof or disinterested man. It is to tap into a quiet certainty that your value is not dependent on her perception of you. You are complete in yourself, unwavering, independent, self-sufficient. You can be vulnerable, yes, but vulnerability doesn't mean throwing yourself at her feet. It means standing in your full power, knowing when to open up and when to pull back. So ask yourself this: what does your energy say to the woman who encounters you? Are you a man who knows his own worth, or one who gives it away freely, as if it is of no consequence? It is in that moment, when a man retreats not in fear, but in self-possession, that the entire dynamic changes. The man who disappears to preserve his essence is not running away. He is refining. He is burning off the parts of himself that once sought validation through her gaze. And when he returns, he brings with him the scent of mystery, the gravity of solitude, and the power of a man who is no longer starving. Women do not yearn for the man who crumbles at her feet. They crave the man who walks away with a calm so deep, it rattles her soul. A man who is not aloof, but ungraspable. There is a difference. The aloof man is avoidant, insecure, withholding. But the ungraspable man? He is whole. He walks through the world with the quiet dignity of someone who has nothing to prove and everything to offer, but only to the one who truly sees. In Jungian terms, this is the man who has integrated his animus. He is no longer reacting from the fragmented boy inside, the one chasing a mother figure in the form of a lover. He is not using charm to seduce, nor pity to cling. He has made peace with his own darkness, and claimed the power that lies in his own silence. And it is silence that echoes the loudest in the mind of a woman who once had your attention. She replays it. She questions it. She feels it, not as rejection, but as a mirror. In your distance, she sees the parts of herself that are still unhealed. The part that demands constant attention to feel loved. The part that confuses control with connection. And in that inner chaos, she senses that you are not just another man. You are the test. The man who is not reactive becomes the canvas for a woman's own individuation journey. Your restraint forces her to confront the very things she avoids in others, absence. And only when a woman can sit in that absence without losing herself will she rise to meet you, not as a girl begging for love, but as a woman offering her soul. She cannot resist what does not need her. She cannot ignore what does not chase her.